Hollywood has done it again, and this time it's Supergirl. I want to talk about a pattern, one that runs through this film and through a lot of what gets greenlit right now. And Supergirl fits it so precisely that it's worth examining closely. The numbers first. Budget, $170 million. Opening weekend, 37 million domestic. That is less than a third of what Superman made opening weekend last year. It opened below Joker 2. It opened below Morbius, a film widely considered one of the worst superhero movies ever made. The studio needs 375 million worldwide to break even. Rotten Tomatoes critics, 56%. Audience, 77%. Cinema score, B-. DC Studios co-head Peter Safran called it, quotes, just one component of a broader strategy. But that is the sound of someone trying not to panic. Next, I'm going to talk about what the script actually does. Here is the premise confirmed across multiple reviews. Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, deliberately travels to red sun planets so that she loses her powers and can get drunk. She's on an extended birthday bender when she meets Ruthie, a young girl whose family has been murdered by a villain called Krem. Krem is also running a child trafficking operation, kidnaps girls to sell into forced breeding programs for an all-male race. But Kara initially refuses to help. So what changes her mind? Krem steals her ship, shoots her dog, Crypto, with a poison dart, and the dog has 3 days to live. Krem has made an antidote, so Supergirl joins the mission to save her dog, not to stop the child trafficking, not because a young girl just watched her family get murdered. The dog. Think about what Superman stands for, the core concept that endured for 80 years. Infinite power, freely chose the service of others. He could do anything. He chooses to do good. That selflessness, that active choice, that is what makes the character work. But the Supergirl script took that concept and built the exact opposite, and then did not acknowledge that's exactly what it did. So next I'm going to talk about the tone problem. The tone problem runs deeper than the motivation. Multiple reviewers from very different angles pointed to the same structural coherence. The film has Kara lecturing Ruthie about not killing people who, quotes, do not deserve to die, while the villain they are chasing is actively trafficking children into sexual slavery. The script never acknowledges what Krem is actually doing. The severity of the situation is treated as a backdrop. One reviewer called it, quote, grotesquely irresponsible. Another said, every instance of Kara moralizing about mercy comes off as tone deaf and unrootable. And the Screen Crush review said the script, quote, mangles and borderline betrays the thematic underpinnings of the source material. Because in the original Tom King comic, which was critically acclaimed, the story is about the meaning of heroism and what revenge does to people. The film has the same plot beats, but it does not have the same understanding of why those beats matter. Here is the systematic failure. If you're going to create a film towards a character who starts off reluctant and selfish and ends up choosing to be good, that journey has to feel earned. The redemption has to pay off from the setup. Reviewers across the board say it does not, which means you have spent 2 hours with an unlikable, incoherent character and got nothing at the end of it. Next, I'm going to talk about what parents were supposed to bring their kids to. Now think about the audience. This is rated PG-13. Supergirl is one of the most recognisable superhero characters in the world. The natural audience, the audience parents would expect to bring their daughters to, is young girls. What they actually get, a protagonist who drinks heavily throughout, intentionally disabling her own superpowers so she can get drunk. A villain whose primary activity is kidnapping girls and women to sell into forced breeding programs. Language a common sense media review describes as better suited to a much more adult film. And the storyline with the hero's main motivation is her dog. I'm not saying that dark themes cannot appear in superhero films for younger audiences. They can, and they have. The question is whether the darkness serves the story and produces something worth the difficulty. Almost every review, including positive ones, says that this film does not earn its darkness. It's just dark, and that is a different thing entirely. So next I'm going to talk about the bubble problem. Here's a question that fascinates me. This film went through script development, table reads, director attachment, studio approval, casting, production, post-production, marketing, £100 million worth of marketing tie-ins alone. At every single one of those stages, people with professional film experiences signed off on it. And at no stage did anybody apparently say, wait, we're making a film about a child trafficker for a PG-13 audience that will include children, in which the main hero's motivation is her dog. And the script never acknowledges the severity of what the villain is doing. And is that right? Either nobody said that, which means the creative bubble is absolute, or somebody said it and was overruled, which means that the problem is institutional. But either way, the answer is the same. The people making these decisions are not asking what the audience actually needs from this film. They are asking something else. And that something else is not working. Here is a concrete example of how the complete bubble can be. The source comic. Tom King's Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, ends with a very specific scene involving the villain, Creme. The writer of the film, Ana Nogueira, understood that scene one way. Tom King, on a podcast after the film was released, confirmed that Nogueira had misread it. That misreading was not a minor detail. It caused significant changes to the film's climax and directly affected the depiction of the main character's moral arc. The writer adapted a story she misunderstood at its most important moment, and that script was approved, produced, and released as the second film in the DC's rebooted universe. The writer, Ana Nogueira, impressed James Gunn enough with this script that she's now been given Wonder Woman and Teen Titans. That is either a sign that DC Studios genuinely cannot see the problem, or that the institutional definition of, quotes, impressive is very different from what audience consider worth watching. Next, I'm going to talk about what good female-led characters actually look like. And here is what frustrates me most about the instinct to blame the audience when films like this underperform. Because the evidence that female-led action films can work does not need arguing for. It's documented. Let's start at the start. Ellen Ripley in Alien and Aliens, one of the most compelling action protagonists ever to be put on screen. Not powerful because the script told us she was, powerful because of what she chose to do in impossible situations. Or Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, held her own in every single Avengers film without a single superpower, through writing that understood what she was and what made her interesting. Angelina Jolie carried multiple action films as the lead. Also, Wonder Woman in 2017 was a genuine critical and commercial success. The first time the character had been on film in that way, and it worked, because the character was written with clarity and purpose. What those films have in common is not that the female lead was likeable in every sense. Ripley is terrifying. Black Widow is morally complicated. What they have is coherence. You understand who the character is, what she wants, and why it matters. And when the script works, the audience does not care about the gender of the lead. They care about the story. The problem with Supergirl is not that it stars a woman. The problem is that it does not know what the story is about. A brilliant source comic was handed to a filmmaker and a writer who understood its plot, but not its meaning. And $170 million produced something that the audience that Supergirl was built for, which is young girls and their parents, could not comfortably sit through. So in conclusion, Millie Alcock, who by the way gets praised in almost every single review, even the critical ones, she delivered what the script gave her as well as anybody could. So this is not about her. It's about a system that keeps making the same decision and being genuinely surprised by the results. I didn't like Superman either, I'm going to be honest with you, but it worked in some level commercially because James Gunn understood what Superman was about. Supergirl needed someone who understood what Supergirl was actually about. The reviews suggest that did not happen. DC Studios say they remain confident in their long-term strategy. I hope they're right, but their confidence is not the same as correction. And until the decisions change, the results will not. Please like, subscribe, and thank you.